Hey everyone, my name is Jill and I'm joined by Elena, and we would like to welcome you to today's PlanoHero webinar, Mastering Retail Expansion, How AI-Driven Planograms Solve the Scaling Puzzle. This webinar is designed to explore how retail chains can effectively manage their merchandising while scaling to a large number of stores. We will discuss how to maintain perfect shelf compliance and team synchronization during rapid growth, utilizing AI-driven tools to simplify the process. Today, you'll learn how to transform manual planogramming into a scalable system that ensures consistency across your entire expanding chain. Now, we encourage you to participate, and you can use the chat and the Q&A feature to do so. To find the Q&A feature, please go into the toolbar and select the More button. Before we begin, I'd love to know where you are joining us from. I'll start by saying hello from New York, so please type in the chat where in the world you're joining us from. And while we do that, I'm going to hand the mic over to Elena. Elena, please take it away.
Thank you, Jillian, and hi, everyone. Let me start with something simple. Scaling retail sounds exciting, and it is. More stores, more customers, more growth. But operationally, it gets complicated very fast. At the beginning, everything usually works. You have a manageable number of stores, your team knows what they are doing, and your processes more or less hold together. But then growth kicks in. You open more stores, you expand your assortment, you add more categories. You have more planograms, more updates, more store team involved. And suddenly things stop working the same way. Execution slows down, mistakes increase, communication becomes harder, and your team starts spending more time fixing issues than actually improving the business. And this is usually the moment when retailers realize scaling is not just growth. Scaling is operational complexity. That's the puzzle we're going to talk about today. And more importantly, how AI-driven planograms and automation can help solve it. Just a quick introduction, so you know who are listening today. My name is Alana Zuban, and I'm a business development manager at PlanoHero. I work with retail teams that are looking to automate merchandising, planogram creation, execution control, and analytics. And as Jillian mentioned, she will be helping us moderate the session, keep the flow moving, and make sure we get to your questions. So I'd be doing most of the talking today, and Jillian will make sure I don't accidentally turn into a 2-hour session. To give you a bit of context, PlanoHero works with more than 100 retail chains across 30 countries. And what's interesting is that the challenges are very similar across markets. We work with retailers in different regions with different format, different assortment sizes, and different internal processes. Some manage a few thousand SKUs, others manage tens of thousands, and even more. But once a company starts scaling, the same pattern appears again and again. It becomes harder to keep stores aligned. It becomes harder to control execution. It becomes harder to understand what is really happening on the shelf. And in many cases, the problem is not that the team is not working hard enough. The problem is that the process itself is no longer built for scale. That's why today we are not just talking about planograms as pictures on the shelves. We are talking about planograms as part of a larger operating system for retail growth. So very briefly, what is PlanoHero? PlanoHero is a cloud-based solution for automating merchandising and planogram creation. It helps retailers optimize shelf space, improve product visibility, and make merchandising decisions based on real data. But the important point is PlanoHero is not only about creating a beautiful planogram. That's only one part of the process. The real value comes when you can create a planogram, send it to stores, control execution, communicate with store teams, collect feedback, analyze results, and improve the layout, all in one connected workflow. Because designing a planogram is not the hardest part. Making sure the planogram is executed correctly across 50, 100, or 200 stores, that's where the real challenge begins. Before we go deeper, I'd actually love to understand where you are today. So we are going to run a quick poll. So the question is, which tools do you currently use to create and manage planograms across your stores? So please take your time. Looks like a few more responses are coming. You can take one option. Oh, great. Thank you. This is very helpful. And honestly, this is exactly what we usually see. A mix of different tools and different maturity levels. Some teams are already using dedicated software. Some are still managing a lot through Excel and PDFs. And some are only starting and standardize the process. And that matters because the tools you use today define how easy or painful scaling will be tomorrow. So let's talk at why typically starts breaking when retailers grow. This slide summarizes the reality very well. Managing 5 stores can feel easy. You know the people, you understand the layout, and if something goes wrong, you can fix it quickly. But once you grow beyond that, things starts to feel like a constant fire drill. First, the revolving door. Retail turnover is high, especially in the US. Store teams change, new employees join, people need to be trained again and again. And every time that happens, consistency becomes harder to maintain. Second, the telephone game. You send a planogram from headquarters, but by the time it reaches the shelf, it may be interpreted differently. Sometimes what gets implemented is not exactly wrong, but let's say it is like inspired by the original planogram. And that's a problem because without a system, compliance becomes guesswork. Third, leaving money on the table. Every empty spot on the shelf, every misplaced product, every wrong facing, it may look small in the store, but across a chain, it adds up very quickly. And finally, email and chat fatigue. If your team is managing displays through emails, Excel files, WhatsApp messages, and blurry photos, then you are not really managing the process. You are reacting to it. And the reality is simple. You can't grow your business if your team is slack fixing the same shelf errors every single morning. So, what changes when companies scale successfully? Most teams first try to solve the problem by adding more people, more merchandisers, more managers, more manual checks, and for a while it helps. But then complexity keeps growing and the same problems come back again. So the real shift is not adding more people. The real shift is moving from people constantly fixing problems to systems preventing problems. The first part of that is synchronized operations. This means that the strategy at the headquarters and the execution on the store floor are connected in one digital environment. In many companies, headquarters works in one reality and store teams work in another. Headquarters send the planogram, the store receives the task, then something changes, someone has a question, someone sends a photo, someone replies in email, someone else answers in the chat, and very quickly the process becomes fragmented. With synchronized operations, everyone works from the same source of truth. The plan, the task, the execution, the feedback, everything is connected. The second part is the intelligence shift. Technology should not only collect data, it should help interpret it. Instead of your team spending hours manually checking shelves, comparing report, or trying to understand why something is not working, the system can help identify gaps much faster. For example, where shelf execution is weak, where stock issues are affecting sales, or where planogram performance needs attention. And the third part is data-driven accountability. This means you move away from subjective checks like, I think the store did it or they said it that was done. Instead, you have objective digital verification. You can see what was sent, what was executed, when it was done, and where follow-up is needed. This is the foundation of scalable merchandising: alignment, visibility, and accountability. The next layer is about making the team more effective. The first point here is resource optimization. In many retail teams, a lot of time is spent on low value manual work, checking shelves, following up with stores, looking for the latest version of the file, asking for photos, trying to understand whether the planogram was actually implemented. None of that is strategic work. It is necessary, but it does not directly grow the business. When you automate this layer, your team can spend less time chasing updates and more time making decisions. For example, which categories need more attention, which stores are underperforming, which products need better placement, and where space can be used more effectively. The second point is future-proofing the supply chain. Retail changes fast. Customer behavior changes, assortments change, promotions change, supplier priorities change, stock availability changes. If your merchandising process isn't too manual, you are always catching up. But if the process is data-driven and connected, it becomes more agile. You can react faster, you can adjust layouts faster, you can send updates faster, and you can track whether those updates were actually executed. So the objective is not just to create a better planogram. The objective is to build a self-correcting system that maintains high standards across any numbers of stores. That's the infrastructure that allows retail teams to scale without turning daily operations into chaos. Now that we have looked at the big picture, let's zoom in a bit. We'll run one more quick poll, so please give an answer to our question. Which of these growing pains is most critical for you business right now? So here we have 4 options. Please take one. I'll give it a moment for everyone to vote. So I think that we have the majority. Yeah, some responses are still coming. So thank you very much. That is a very familiar picture. And usually it's not just one issue. These problems tend to stack together. Poor communication leads to inconsistent execution. Inconsistent execution creates poor visibility. Poor visibility makes it harder to make a good decision. And this is exactly where most traditional tools start breaking down. So now let's move from the problem to the solution. This brings us to the practical part. So far, we've talked about the challenges, but the real question is, how do we actually solve these day-to-day operations? Because most tools look good on slides, but fall apart in execution. So what I'd like to do now is show you how this works in practice. Not in theory, but in a real workflow your team would use daily. We will look at 3 things first. How rules help you create and scale planograms, how photo reports help control execution, and how communication becomes part of the workflow instead of being scattered across emails and chats. Then we will move into Wizora, our AI assistant, and look at how it can help analyze performance much faster. So now I have to switch into presentation of our PlanoHero series. Yeah. So I'm sharing my screen. I hope it's visible. So let's start with the foundation. How planograms are actually created and scaled. In many companies, this is still done manually, and that usually means the process is time consuming, hard to scale, and very dependent on specific people. Here in PlanoHero, instead of building each layout manually, you define rules. So we can offer you this kind of automation that we call layout rules. So they can help you, for example, to define new products. So what we can do here. For example, you can define how products should be grouped by brands, by categories, suppliers, properties, or even shelves. Sorting products can be done by sizes, by prices, sorting vertically or horizontally. We also can change the share of every brand. We can extend it, or we can also minimize the share of every brand. And the most interesting thing here that we can build our planogram taking into account our sales. So we can take into account our sales and in specific period and the specific like entity of this sale. So metric, it can be like turnover coefficient, profit coefficient, receipt quantity, or sales quantity. So once we save the rule, we can use it further on different kinds of locations. So instead of designing 100 stores one by one, you define the logic ones and then scale it across all of them. So how can we use it on our example? In this case, soft drinks were like the rule for 2 meters equipment with 6 shelves. But let's make this rule for the 3 meters equipment and 4 shelves. So we can choose our, we can choose our rule. So from our list and just drag and drop it to the shelf. And the system will just make those shares of every brand that we just set up. So we can check it in our like highlight brands. So we have 40% of Coca-Cola, Fanta 30, and Pepsi and Sprite in the same like proportion, 20 and almost 10. So this usually saves a lot of late night with Excel. The important part is that this gives you consistency. So your team can spend less time creating repetitive layouts and more time thinking strategically when categories needs creation, attention, which products should get more faces, more space, and where performance can be improved. So I will save this planogram. Now creating planograms is only half of the story. Execution is where things usually break. So you may have a perfect planogram, but if it is not implemented correctly in the store, the business value disappears. So here's how the workflow looks. In PlanoHero, we can check every photo report directly in the service, so we can compare the planogram that was sent to the manager and the specific store, and we can also confirm the execution or return for execution with our comments and like specifying the place where the changes should be done. So for your information, for example, and we can return the planogram for re-execution. So store team receive tasks and upload photos once execution is done. And then we can check this photo and we also can like confirm the execution, or if you need like another activity. So just to confirm, the store manager will receive the notification that everything was done perfectly. So instead of like guessing what is happening in your store, you actually see it. And this is where control becomes real. You are not longer relying on random follow-ups or separate files. You have a structured way to track what was done, when it was done, and what still needs attention. Now let's talk about the communication. So here I would like to show you that we have like a built-in chat. So communication is built into the workflow and tied directly to the planogram. So there is no need to communicate through emails, WhatsApp, Excel chat, or phone calls. Everything can be done here. So if something is wrong, you don't need to send emails, open other tools, or search through messages. You can respond right here. So one place, one context, and no chaos. So you can choose any user or any store, send a message, and receive your answer right now. And this is very important for merchandising teams because most execution issues are not solved by sending more messages. They are solved by making communication clear and connected to the task. Now, this is where things get really interesting. I would like to switch on one more time. So everything we've seen so far help you to execute, but the next question is how do you actually improve your performance? Not just maintain the process, but understand what should be changed. So let me switch once more. Some technical issues. Okay, great. So our next part, let's look at how you would actually answer real business questions. So how much revenue are we losing due to out of stocks? Instead of digging through reports, you can ask the question directly. And Wizora, our AI assistant, helps summarize the impact. You can see total revenue loss, which stores are affected, and how significant the impact is. This is powerful because stockouts are often threatened as an operational issue. And once you see these numbers, it becomes very hard to ignore. Next, we go into efficiency. The question here is, which products take shelf space but do not generate enough profit? This is one of the classic merchandising questions. Because shelf space is limited, every product on the shelf has to justify the space it occupies. Wizora highlights product with low return relativity to the space they take and helps identify items that make it overrepresented. So instead of relying only on intuition, you can optimize based on real data. And finally, we look at the overall planogram quality. The question is, what's wrong with this layout? Wizora can identify issues like stock holes, inefficient facing distribution, poor product grouping, and other layout problems. But the important part is that it doesn't just show issues, it gives clear recommendations. So instead of spending hours analyzing reports, checking layouts, and trying to connect different data points manually, your team gets structured insight much faster. And that is the real value of AI in the process. AI as a way to help teams make better decisions faster. So, what we have just seen is not a set of separate features. It's one connected workflow. Planogram creation, execution control, communication, and analytics. And this is what makes scaling possible. Because at the end of the day, this is not just about planograms. It's about how much revenue you are using, how quickly you can recover it, and how much control you have over execution. So the real question becomes, do you want to only explore this in theory, or do you want to see how it would work with your own data? Now that you have seen the workflow in practice, I'm curious how this compares to your current setup. Before we continue, I'd love to get your input. Let's take one more last quick poll. So the question in it is, which outcome of retail automation is most critical for your current scaling strategy? So our poll is. So here we have several options which you can choose. Do you see the poll, by the way? Can you react to this? Because I don't see on my computer. I'm not sure. Yep. Okay, so I hope there is a poll there. And I hope that the results are like fascinating. So uh, we will see it in the end. Yep, Jillian.
Elena, you're right. We didn't launch the poll. Let us do that right now. So sorry, everyone.
Yeah. Can we run the poll?
Yeah, we're going to get on that right now. Give me 1 second. Apologies, everyone. Just bear with us.
No worries. Technical issues. Okay, in webinar. So are you ready to give answers to our poll? I hope so. Because we are doing a lot of statistics on different types of clients. So it will be very important for us. Okay, so are we ready?
I am so sorry. We are, you know what? Please continue, and we're going to launch the poll in just 2 seconds.
Okay,
Oh, here we go. Here
okay.
we go. So sorry, everyone. It's
Yeah,
going.
great. Yeah,
My
I see the
fault,
poll.
everyone.
So
But
yeah.
here I am trying to keep us on track. I'm sorry for delaying us. Okay, take it away, Elena.
Okay, so the last one question. Which outcome of retail automation is most critical for your current scaling strategy? So you see four options. It will be great when you will choose any of them. Yeah, so we will give the moment for everybody to choose an option. Looks like responses are still coming in. Do we have the majority? The results? Yeah. Okay. Great. Reducing operational cost, manual labor. Sales through better shelf compliance. Great. Thank you very much. This is really interesting because usually at this point, people shift their answers. At the beginning, it may feel like the main problem is creating planograms faster. But after seeing the full workflow, it becomes clear that the bigger question is system-wide control. So how do we create layouts faster? How do we make sure stores execute them? How do we communicate clearly? How do we analyze that work? And that's exactly what we see with our clients as well. Let me show a few examples. Now let's talk about result because theory is useful, but real examples are usually much more helpful. The company we will mention here are different in size, market, and business model, but the pattern is very similar. They needed better control, less manual work, and a more scalable merchandising process. So let's start with Sokar. Their key insight was seamless integration and export support. For many teams, a new system can feel intimidating at first, so training and support are extremely important. With proper onboarding, the team can start using the platform efficiently much faster. And that's exactly what we focus on. Not just giving access to the tool, but helping the team understand how to work with it. Now, Korzinka is a great example of execution control and budget savings. By automating planogram distribution and store control, they optimized merchandising processes and saved approximately 10,000 US dollars of their budget. And this is a good reminder. Automation is not only about convenience. It directly affects costs, time, and operational efficiency. Here we have two more examples. ION focused on advanced analytics and optimized manpower. This is especially relevant for teams that are growing but don't want to keep expanding headcount just to manage manual processes. With better analytics and easier workflows, the team can reduce manual workload and spend more time on decisions that actually move the business forward. A&K Herd Market is a strong example of data-driven inventory and shelf management. Their shelf stock analysis report became a go-to tool for optimizing ordering and making sure the right products are available in the right quantities. And this connects directly to what we discussed earlier with Wizora. Shelf space, inventory, sales, and execution should not live in separate worlds. They need to work together. And here we see two more important use cases. Express highlights efficient remote layout management. This is especially valuable when teams need to manage layouts without constantly visiting stores. You can create, analyze, and adjust layouts remotely, which save real and simplifies the planning process. MixSmart is a great example of scalability and user-friendly workflow. When a solution is used across 200 plus stores, simplicity becomes critical. It's not enough for the system to be powerful. It also has to be practical and understandable for teams using it every day. So across all these examples, the message is the same. Better execution control, less manual work, stronger analytics, and a more scalable process. Now we know that switching or testing a new system is a big step. So instead of asking you to commit right away, we want to make it easier to explore. As part of this webinar, we are offering you the first month of free on the PlanoHero Enterprise Plan. This gives you the opportunity to experience the platform, test the workflow, and understand how it works for your business. With Enterprise, you get centralized planogram management, real-time execution control, AI-driven insights, and dedicated onboarding support. So it's not just access to software, it's support from day one so your team can actually get value from the system. And before we go to the Q&A section, just one last point. If anything you saw today felt relevant to your stores, feel free to explore it further. You can try it on your own with a free trial, or we can walk through it together, whatever works better to you. I'd be genuinely happy to take a look at your setup and see where this could bring the most value. You can scan the QR code and book a setup call or reach out to me directly by email. So, Jillian, what about our questions in the chat? So, do we have them?
We do. We actually have a few questions for you. So I'm going to start off with a question from Greg. Where does the sales data come from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, all the data, not only the sales data, we are taking from your ERP system, but it's not like direct integration. So first, to take this data, we have to integrate our systems. It's not the direct integration through the API, but we do it through the intermediate database. So here's your ERP, here is our PlanoHero Cloud, and here we have the intermediate database, which has to be populated due to our like technical documentation, but just one like answer to this question that we are taking this information from your like ERP or other system.
Excellent. Okay. And then Greg actually asked two more. So the first one was, can item data be imported?
Can you repeat the question one more?
Can item data be imported?
Item data? Yep.
Yes.
If you are talking about the products data, yeah, there should be not only the category, brand, for example, yeah, the place, any like properties or features of this product, but the very important is photos and dimensions of the product, like height, weights, and depths. And that's how the system knows how much space the product just takes in on the shelf, because we know the dimensions of the product and we know the dimensions of the shelf.
Thank you. And then one more from Greg. He asks, does PlanoHero include data and images?
If we are talking about our own database, for now, no, we don't provide like this database from our side. So it's like the information that we have to take from our client. The easiest way, if you don't have the collected database for now, is to make the request to your suppliers to collect this kind of information, like images and dimensions.
Thank you. Then I have a question from Julia. This is a two-part. How difficult is it to integrate your software with our ERP/POS? And what kind of data format is required?
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's not like the hard process as far as I know from my like technical team, for integration team. Yeah. So as a rule, we take like 1 month for this. We share the technical documentation, so how you should populate this intermediate database, what kind of data should be there. So it's like the category tree, the brand's name, the images, the dimensions of the products, name of the product, and then on the last, like as the last item, it's like the sales data and inventories.
Excellent. Thank you. We have a question from Vladimir. Vladimir asks, does PlanoHero have a mobile tool or a verification process for store staff?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We have the developed like for store managers mobile app. So the process is pretty like digitized when you send the planogram to the store for execution. So the store manager can use mobile app. They receive the task there, and then they can like confirm the execution with the photo report directly with the mobile app. So there is no need like to make some printings and to spend money for paper.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from Vlada. Vlada asks, does the system generate heat maps or analytics?
Yeah, we have the analytics module. So we have built in like several reports like chain sales analysis, layout analysis, and etc. We can also we also have analytics in micro and macro level in PlanoHero. So we can analyze and compare planograms, and we can analyze and compare store plans. And there on the store plans, we have these like heat maps, which we build on the information from every receipt, which we take from your POS system.
Great, thank you. And then we have another question from Antonina. How can I track which planograms have already been executed in the store and which have not? And before I hand it over to you, I just want to remind everyone to please put their any other questions in the chat or the Q&A. And I'll repeat that question one more time. How can I track which planograms have already been executed in the store and which have not?
So we are doing this directly in the service. So those planograms that are not executed, so they are marked. So we have like the tasks module where this information is reflected. So this on execution, executed, and if we are talking about from a store manager perspective, so they see this like filtering in their mobile app by marking on different colors.
Excellent, thank you. And then we have a question from Fred. Are planograms built based on stores' current assortment or industry data?
Yep, you can build like planograms based on your current assortment. So based on your category tree, the brands that you have like in your assortment.
Excellent. We have a few more coming in. Let me just allow them to finish typing. Okay, we have one from Greg. Thank you, Greg, for the questions. If I choose to import data and images, what image format is required? GIF, JPG,
Mhm,
TGA, etc.
mhm. Yeah, as a rule, it is better work with like JPG or PNG files. But also we can offer in like some specific cases, we can offer like the URL links if you have like it's somewhere on the website yeah, in the e-commerce, for example. So yeah.
Thank you. And another from Greg. Can PlanoHero be used in a standalone mode, as in not connected to back office systems?
If you are talking about not connected to any system, so we have to take information about your products, inventories, and sales from some place. But if you are talking about, so we make like uploading of the data like from once to twice or three times per day. So if you are talking about that, it's like uh, the data on this second, no. So we just upload data several times a day, and the system can work with internet connection, but not connected directly to your like ERP system.
Perfect.
If
Okay.
if I understand the question correctly, but you can also uh, email me with these questions, and then I will give like better answers maybe.
Oh, thank you. And that's actually a great point. While we still have a few more minutes for questions, so please feel free to enter the questions into the chat or the Q&A. And while you're doing that, I will remind you that while our session will come to a close shortly, we will be staying 15 minutes longer so we can answer any questions you might have one-on-one. And if you would like, as Elena said, you can email her or message her on WhatsApp with any questions you might have. And her email and WhatsApp number will be posted in the chat. Um, so we're just going to allow 2 more minutes for questions to come in. And while those come in, I'm going to thank you all for joining us and for taking the time to be with us today. And Elena, I want to thank you for taking the time to give this very informative presentation. Um, as I said, we'll be staying for another 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, please feel free to stay on the call and our team will be here to answer those. And as a quick reminder, after the webinar, you'll receive a short guide to a unified merchandising process that can be useful for any retail chain and as well as a webinar recording. If you'd like to learn more, you can also reach out to Elena directly. And Elena has her email and her WhatsApp number in the chat. Can we make sure that's placed in the chat for everyone? You can also book a short personalized product demo with Elena to see the full functionality of the platform and answer in action and to get answers to all your questions. So, oh, here we go. This is Elena's phone number and her email are now in the chat. So please feel free to reach out directly. And with that, I'm going to thank you all for being with us today, and we hope to speak to you soon. Elena, I'll turn it over to you for any final words.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Also, so just remember that scaling retail is not about adding more people to fix the same problems. It's about building smarter systems that help your team move faster, stay aligned, and make better decisions. So, thanks again, and I'd be happy to continue conversation with anyone who'd like to explore PlanoHero further. Thank you.
Thank you all.